What's up, Tide fans? Welcome back into another episode of Tide Talk Live. Stacey Blackwood, joined as always by my good buddy Jake Thomas. Jake, what's up, brother?
Man, I'm doing good tonight. Got trimmed up as you see. I look like a totally different person. Look like 30 years younger. So anyway,
You
I'm good
actually
back.
look like a person.
I know it. Yeah. So like yeah, I got a good trim Sundays. So everybody saw me last night on SEC at the Dart, but tonight, I'm on here. Or, when this recording, we're recording on a Wednesday night. So,
Yeah,
but
we're
it's good to be
recording
here,
right
man.
now. Yeah, we're recording as Alabama's taking Florida in the SEC
Hmm.
baseball tournament. Alabama currently has a 3-2 lead, but obviously by the time y'all watch or listen to this episode, this game will already be concluded and we'll know the outcome. But looking good for Alabama baseball right now. They're playing well at the right time, so continue to root those guys on as well. As you can see, we're going to be talking about the tight end depth chart projections post spring. We've already done the quarterbacks, the running backs, and the receivers. We have the tight ends and the offensive line left on the offensive side of the football before we move over to the defensive side. Before we do that, make sure you like, share, and subscribe today. Really appreciate all the comments and all the likes that we've received on our videos and the views. We really appreciate all the support that we have on our YouTube channel and also on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. All the listens that we have there as well. So just thank you so much for all the support that you've shown us on our show, and as we've just continued to grow and grow through the years, and we certainly appreciate that. But Jake,
Thank you.
as we look at this tight end room, I think it's a room that's full of depth.
Yeah.
And it's very similar to the wide receiver room where you don't really have a star player in the position group, but you have a lot of really good players in the group. So, just your initial thoughts on this tight end room heading into 2023.
I'm excited about it. Like you said, there's not really like a go-to guy there. Now, CJ has got experience, but it's not in this style and it's not in the SEC. Not Black, he come in last year and I mean he's looked really good. Robbie Oots, he kind of come on late last year, and then we still got Kinselman down there. So there's a lot of talent there. It's just who's going to be the guy to step up. And with this system that we're planning on running with Tommy Reese, the tight end is going to get used a good bit. So I expect they to be targeted a good bit this coming up season.
Yeah, this could really be a room that some people learn some names from this fall.
Right.
You mentioned the usage that Tommy likes to do with the tight ends, and we kind of saw that in A Day. I think there was like 3 or 4 different tight ends that had receptions during A Day. So, and I expect that to kind of be the recipe this fall. I think you're going to see Danny Lewis, C.J. Dupree,
Yeah.
Amari Niblack, and Robbie Oots all play first team reps and significant snaps with
Hmm.
the first team. I think Kitzelman to get some snaps with the first team as well because he did last year. So
Right.
there is a plethora of tight ends for Tommy Reese to use at his disposal, and I'm excited to kind of see how he navigates that room and how he figures out who fits where and kind of what kind of mismatches he can provide with the different skill sets that each of those guys provide. So we're going to kind of do the same thing we did with the receiver room, and not just list X, Y, and Z. We're not going to list the Y and the H. We're just going to look at how we think the tight end room is going to look from a snap count wise, and how we think Tommy Reese is going to utilize those guys. And I think maybe one of the biggest stories of the spring was the rise of Danny Lewis, the
Yeah.
redshirt freshman from Louisiana, who C.J. Dupree got a little nicked up early in spring. Robbie Oots was out for a portion of the spring, so they needed somebody to step up, and that was Danny Lewis, and he really proved to be, one of the more balanced tight ends for Alabama. Not only is he a really good blocker, but he's solid catching the football in the passing game, and him and C.J. Dupree to me are probably the two most balanced of the tight ends that Alabama has as far as being able to both block and catch the football. But then you have the weapon in Amari Niblack, who has the ability to really make receiver type plays in the passing game, still working on his body, getting more physical at the line of scrimmage, and being able to block. But he's a guy who could really be a weapon for this Alabama offense.
Yeah, we've been high on eye blasts. Has been down there. I mean, and for good reason. Looking at who I think you would see the most, get the most snaps and looks, I would probably say Dupree and Nye Black is probably right there together. Then maybe Oots and Lewis just right behind them. Begin, I wouldn't call it second team, but maybe the one A and then the one B, and there'll be that one B who can spell Nye Black and Dupree in games as well.
Yeah, I'm thinking
Hmm.
about in certain packages or certain situations. When I look at goal to go situations, I could see four tight ends being in the
Oh
game.
yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
seriously, you could
Hmm.
see. I could see Danny Lewis, C.J. Dupree on the end of the line. Maybe Amari Niblack kind of in a behind them. Maybe Robbie
Hmm.
Oots is the fullback in the I formation. So maybe
Yep.
all four of those guys on the field at the same time. And man, what a package that would be, and what versatility it gives Tommy Reese in his play calling and his play design there at the goal line. So
Hmm.
I think this group, while it lacks a true star for now, it really poses some strong potential for this album offense in 2023 because of the depth, and they're all really good players.
Right.
It's so much like the wide receiver room where there's not that superstar, there's not that Amari Cooper or Julio Jones, and while this tight end room doesn't have an OJ Howard or an Irv Smith Jr., there's a lot of really good football players and lot of really good tight ends there. So I think Tommy Reese is probably excited with what he has,
Hmm.
and he's probably kind of licking his chops at the way that he's going to be able to utilize all those guys.
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to make a point here. It seems like every one of these that we have done so far, State, especially running backs, wide receivers, and now the tight ends, we've talked about the disposal of players that Tommy Reese has to use. Everybody has already kind of put Alabama out, and this is exactly what we want. I mean, there's players here. Yeah, there's not a star wide receiver, there's not a star tight end, and the quarterback it still remains a mystery. But the thing about it is, Saban is going to get it figured out, and when he does, this offense is going to be electric because there's talent all across the offense. And we talk about interchanging players out. We still got the offensive line to talk about, and I feel like there's some guys that may not start. To start the season may be starting by the end of the season. So I mean that'd be fun to talk about as well. But right now, I mean, I'm loving that the media is putting Alabama, out because of the question marks. But honestly, I don't really think they're question marks because by the time the season gets here, Saban's going to have it figured out, and we're going to be rolling.
Yeah, I feel like we have this conversation each and every offseason about
I know
not
it.
doubting Nick Saban in Alabama.
Yeah.
You think people would eventually learn, but it is what it is. But
Right.
going back to this tight end room, if you want to, all the talk this offseason has been about how Alabama kind of wants to return to that physical brand of football on
Hmm.
the offensive side of the football, and if you want to know what kind of offense you're going to run, really one of the easiest ways to figure that out is what does your tight end room look like?
Right.
And over the last few seasons, there hasn't really been a lot of tight ends. You've had like Cameron Latu over the last couple of years, and that's really been about it. That's about all the tight end usage you've had. But
Right.
now you look at what Alabama's got here in 2023, and there's four guys, maybe even five, that could see the field with the first team offense. So that's what you're going to get with this Alabama offense in 2023. That's what Nick Saban's wanting to do. Bringing in Tommy Reese, a guy who has that old school mentality, even at the age of 31, of running the football, establishing a physical rushing attack, and then using the play action pass off of that. And there's no better way to get a tight end involved than off a play action pass. So I really like what Alabama has at tight end, despite not having a superstar. I think they're in really good hands with the 4 or 5 guys that they do have down there. And I kind of a shameless plug here. I just published an article on RollTideWire.com
Hmm.
where I talked about the how Tommy Reese and Kevin Steele are going to complement each other
Yeah.
this season, and how that's just going to make Alabama better, and how that's going to make Alabama quickly get back into the Bama way of being a more physical football team, and really when the offense becomes more physical, That allows the defense to become more physical because they're playing against each other every day in practice. And iron sharpens iron, and competition breeds excellence. So I really think that Tommy Reese and Kevin Steele are going to complement each other so well in terms of Alabama wanting to get back to that physical brand of football that we're used to seeing under Nick Saban.
Yeah, absolutely. We've talked about that at length. It seems like this offseason as well about how we feel like the brand and the standard at Alabama is starting to come back like it was in the glory days, I should say, early on Saban's career at Alabama. So I'm excited to see it, man. It's we still got a whole summer to get through, but summer's quickly moving along. Well, I mean, we're
Ma-
almost in June, so
Man,
it's
crazy.
crazy. Yeah. But the tight ends, I'm not really worried about. I feel like there is a guy there who could potentially become a superstar in Nye Black. But other than that, we have guys around him that can, be just as good as well. So I'm not really worried about the tight end room.
Yeah, I don't think there should be. I think it's going to be one of those position groups when you look back, after the season where you're like, man, Alabama was really good at that position.
Right.
They didn't have a superstar. I think we have one in the making in
Yep.
Amari Niblack. He certainly has all the traits and characteristics, of a future star at that position. And I think we'll start to see some of that roll out throughout the 2023 year, kind of setting him up for a massive junior season in 2024. So I'm excited about the future of the tight end room, and even here in 2023, I think it's going to be a really good group for Alabama there in Tuscaloosa.
Yep.
But that's going to wrap up our tight end depth chart projections post spring as we head into late May, closing in on June. Jake, like you mentioned just a minute ago, the summer is already flying by and it just started. So
Yeah.
before you know it, media days will be here. So there'll be a ton of coverage for that. But we
Mhm.
still have all our depth chart projections remaining. We still have the offensive line, and then of course all the defensive side of the football. Before we get into the dog days of summer, and but we're going to be here throughout all the steps of the way leading up to the 2023 season on September 2nd, which is 101 days away from today. We're
Wow.
recording on Wednesday, May the 24th. So it'll be here before you know it. Cannot wait. Going to be a lot of fun to kind of continue the discussion throughout the summer months because there's a lot to talk about with Alabama football. Like you mentioned, people are doubting Alabama and Nick Saban,
Mhm.
and to that we say, hold
Yeah.
your horses.
No,
Look,
absolutely.
yeah, and I'm sure we'll have plenty of discussion about that throughout the summer months. But one thing, look, I think it's fair to say that maybe Alabama has fallen off a tad. But I think it's important to remember that it's not anything that other teams are doing. It's really kind of been self-inflicted wounds, so to
Right.
speak.
Hmm.
I think maybe holding on to Pete Golden an extra year or two set him back a little bit. I think the Bill O'Brien experience kind of set him back a little bit, but Nick Saban's now hit that reset button, and Tommy Reese and Kevin Steele. And while it may not be an instant gratification type thing, they're really a step in the right direction to kind of resurrecting this. Resurrecting is such a strong word because, I mean, we won the SEC championship game. We're 1 year removed from an SEC championship game win and a college
Yeah.
football playoff national championship game appearance. So
Right.
the sky's not falling. Nick Saban hasn't lost a step, and Alabama is right there in the thick of it, and they're going to be right there in the thick of it at the end of the 2023 season as well.
Yeah. Two things real quick I want to say. There's a reason they come out with a poll today. I think it was college football something it was listing the top coaches,
I
head
think it was
coaches.
Sporting News. I think it was
Sporting
Sporting
news.
News.
Yeah. Number one, of course, is still Nick Saban for a obvious reason. Now Kirby has won two in a row, but Saban has won six. So
Yeah,
I mean, his body of work is
7 in
still
total if you count
seven,
LSU.
yeah, seven in total. So body of work is still there, and Saban's still the greatest ever. And the other thing, Stacey, before we leave, I know we're doing football and stuff, but I want to mention and say congratulations to our Adapted Athletics tennis team. They won their eighth consecutive national championship a
Wow.
few days ago. So big hand to those boys. And our athletic, adaptive athletics program is amazing because
It's
they
elite.
win.
It is.
Yeah, they are one of
It
the
is
best in the
elite.
country. Yeah. So
There's no doubt. I think overall, there's probably not a better adapted athletics program than what Alabama has. I mean, you're talking
no.
about basketball, both men's and women.
Yep.
The tennis, like you mentioned, is just on a roll. So,
Yeah.
big shout out to those guys. They don't get
Yes.
enough credit
Right.
or recognition, I should say. So, shout out to those guys. Jake, do you have a score update on the baseball game before we head out?
Let's see. Last I saw, it was 3-2. Let me get in here. Let's see. Pull it up here.
Still
This is
3-2 Alabama
3-2.
in the top of the eighth, and Andrew Pinkney
Yeah.
just walked. So
Yeah. Oh, it just update 7 seconds ago. Pink's walk was all in the eighth, so he just got a walk. So now we're going to the bottom of the eighth.
yep,
So hopefully the Tide holds on and wins. Or what a huge win if baseball can get it against Florida.
no doubt, no doubt. We talked at pre-recording real quick. I promise we're fixing to head out, folks.
Yeah.
But we talked in the pre-recording that we think Alabama's probably locked up hosting the regional,
Yeah.
but a win against Florida tonight
Nails it down.
would lock it up for sure. So what a job that Jason Jackson has done taking over for Brad Bohannon. What a just a terrible situation, really. Just
Yeah.
but this team has responded so well. They're 9-2 heading into this game against Florida in their last 11 games, six straight wins, and it's just been a complete team performance. The pitching has been phenomenal. The
Yep.
hitting has been there. Andrew Pinkney has been as good as anybody in SEC baseball over the last month. So
Mhm.
just kudos to those guys. What a way to kind of recover after an unfortunate event occurred with Brad Bohannon in that situation. We're not going to dive into that because there's still
No.
so much that's unknown in that situation. But and you know us, we don't get into rumors. We talk
Right.
facts here on this show, and the fact is we're going to wrap it up now.
Yeah, I'm. It was a good episode, man. Glad to be back, and we'll get to our offensive line here in the next couple of days, hopefully,
Yes,
depending on
sir.
schedule. So I'm excited about it as well.
Yep. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe today. Look, jump in the description below and follow our links to BetUS. Sign up today, and, and on your first deposit, you'll receive a 125% bonus. Also, click the link to Latour Watches, and when you do, if you buy a watch, you'll receive free shipping. So make sure you do that there today. Like, share, and subscribe. Cannot wait to get back in here to talk
Yep.
some offensive line because that's going to be a fun group to discuss. But until
Yep.
next time, for Stacey Blackwood and Jake Thomas, this has been Tide Talk Live. Roll Tide.
Roll Tide.